Hello, music fans. July 2024 is over, so it's time to count down my 10 favorite albums that were released in July 2024 in the world of metal, rock, and prog. Let's jump right in with my number 10, which is in my very good tier. Didn't quite make it to excellent. I think there are two albums this month that made it to my excellent tier and one that made it to my near masterpiece, but the other seven on my list are going to be very good. So this album at number 10 is Windwaker and their album Hyperviolence. This is metalcore with alternative rock and hip hop influences in there. This is the second album by this Australian band. Before this release, I heard two of the early release singles, enjoyed them, so I put it on my list to check out. And I also heard an EP that they dropped earlier in 2024 that I enjoyed. This album, Hyperviolence, has really catchy hooks, but also has some intense breakdowns and guitar riffs. It features clean singing, screaming, and rapping vocals, so you get some good vocal variety here. My favorite track on first listen was Sirens. At number 9, I have an EP by a band called Circle of Size, and the EP is called Ursus. It came out July 19th. This is progressive death metal with free jazz, industrial, synthwave, doom metal, and grindcore influences. It's a fairly underground band, Circle of Size, but they're very uniquely weird, avant-garde, and experimental. Uh, Kind of death metal, kind of progressive, really all over the place. I heard the opening track Ursus 1 before the release. That really got me interested in checking this out. The whole album continues that weird progressive death metal sound. Check it out if you like weird and brutal stuff. Circle of Size and their EP called Ursus. At number 8, I have something different, not metal at all. It's Al Di Meola and his album 24. This is mostly instrumental jazz fusion with some flamenco influences in there. This American guitarist, Al Di Meola, has so many albums. If you include live albums and cover albums, I think he's done a good 45 or so, but this is the first one of his albums that I have listened to in full. His guitar playing is just truly amazing here. He has a bit of that Spanish flamenco style to it, and a lot of really fast shredding, but also a lot of nice melodic stuff and good harmonies too, played on classical and acoustic guitar rather than any electric guitar playing. The album is mostly instrumental, but there are some very brief vocal moments, but I'd still kind of count it as an instrumental album for the most part. At number 7, I have a band called Hours and their album Rocket's Red Glare. This is alternative rock with progressive rock, indie rock, pop, and soul influences. The seventh album by this American band. I never listened to an album by them before, but thanks to Kyle from All Media Reviews YouTube channel, check it out, for letting me know about this one. Hours here, they make mostly sad sounding rock songs, but I think fans of the Deer Hunter will like this. It's got a bit of that progressive rock influence with that alternative indie style to it. At number 6, I've got Mothman and the Thunderbirds with their album Portal Hopper. This is progressive metal with alternative rock, hard rock, sludge metal, and stoner doom metal influences. This is the second album by this American band, and their name is fun, Mothman and the Thunderbirds. The music is also very fun and happy sounding and accessible progressive metal with a lot of major keys, which you don't usually hear in the genre. If you're a fan of more accessible stuff by Devin Townsend, some of his catchier, poppier, happier, more accessible songs, that's kind of what Mothman and the Thunderbirds album Portal Hopper reminds me of. So check it out if that sounds good to you. At number 5, I have Category 7 with their self-titled debut album. It's heavy metal with thrash metal and groove metal influences. Category 7 is an American supergroup featuring Armored Saint and former Anthrax frontman John Bush on vocals, Phil Demmel on guitars, who's a former Machine Head guitarist, Adrenaline Mob guitarist Mike Orlando, Exodus bassist Jack Gibson, and Overkill and Shadows Fall drummer Jason Bittner. This is modern sounding, groovy heavy metal with thrash metal influences, with all clean singing but very powerful vocals for fans of Adrenaline Mob, Whom Gods Destroy, Sons of Apollo, and Symphony X. The vocals remind me a bit of Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden mixed with Dino Jalusic from Whom Gods Destroy. If you like the sounds of that, check out Category 7 and their self-titled album. At number 4, I have a classic band, legendary, long time running, it's Deep Purple with their album Equals One. Came out on July 19th. And this is hard rock. It's got some progressive rock influence in there, but it's mostly hard rock, bluesy rock. And it's their 23rd album. They're a legendary band from the UK who's still going strong after putting out their first 2 albums way back in 1968. And while I didn't love their last album, Turning to Crime, since it's a covers album, I prefer their original albums. I think the 2 albums they released before Turning to Crime, Infinite and Whoosh, are among some of the best albums they've ever done, and comparable to their classics like Machine Head, which is an amazing album. I understand that the covers album, Turning to Crime, they put that out during the pandemic time because they couldn't really get in the room together and jam as much, so they found it easier to make covers. So I understand the circumstances around it and why they did it, and I'm still fine with that they did it, but I much prefer listening to Infinite and Whoosh, and this one, Equals One. Based on the singles from Equals One, I could tell that Deep Purple still knows how to rock in their bluesy rock style. They're one of the best at this style, if not the best of all time. A lot of the deeper cuts on this album are even better than the singles. There's great guitar playing and keyboard playing on here, solid songwriting, great riffs, even some cool key changes. I was hoping they'd have more progressive rock sounding songs on the album like they had on Infinite. There were a few moments of progressive sounding bits, but it leaned more towards the bluesy hard rock sound the majority of the time. After first couple listens, I don't think it's as good as Infinite or Whoosh, but certainly better than Turning to Crime. And they really know how to open and close an album, because my 2 favorite tracks on this album, Equals One by Deep Purple, are the opener, Show Me, which is my favorite probably. Great way to open an album with energy and awesome guitar playing right away. And the closer, Bleeding Obvious, which has some cool parts with 7 beats per bar in the intro and then goes into a more straightforward but still well-written and performed song. Okay, so that's all the albums on this list that I have in my very good tier. For my last 3, at number 3, I'm moving up to my excellent tier. Number 3 is Mile Marker Zero and their album Coming of Age. This is progressive rock with alternative rock, hard rock, and heavy metal influences. Only the singles from this album are on Spotify, so you have to check this one out on Bandcamp if you want to hear it. Mile Marker Zero, Coming of Age. This is the 3rd album by this American band. If you're a fan of Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson, I think you'll like this. Also maybe some Neil Morse influence in there. It's mostly relaxing and beautiful prog rock songs, but then there are parts where they get heavy. And even though it's not really metal, there are some parts that almost go as metal as, say, a Dream Theater, kind of your textbook progressive metal sound gets mixed in here. But it mostly stays in the rock lane, and it's mostly pretty accessible, but really well-written songs. If that sounds good to you, check out Coming of Age by Mile Marker Zero. Number 2, also in my excellent tier, is Aeons and The Ghosts of What We Knew. This is progressive metalcore with a bit of djent sounds mixed in there. Check out the track Noose, the opening track. That's my favorite track on the album. so far at this point in time. This is the third album by this band. They're from Isle of Man, which you don't hear of many bands from there. So this album from Aeons, it features an over 19-minute epic song called Ghosts. Also definitely worth checking out, one of the better epics of the year so far. So check this out if you love progressive metal music and you're not afraid of stuff that gets a little hardcore and genty. And my favorite album of July 2024, number one I'm putting it in my near masterpiece tier, came out July 5th. It's a band, I should have looked up how to pronounce their name before I made this video. It's Piah Mater, Piah space Mater, and their album Under the Shadow of a Foreign Sun. This is progressive blackened death metal with doom metal and heavy metal influences. Check out the song Fallow Garden for a preview of it. And this is the third album by this band from Brazil. Piah Mater's riffs just sound evil, like early and mid-career Opeth. There's a lot of intense growls, but also clean singing on here that's really great and well done. A lot of heavy, distorted riffs, but some nice, clean, jazzy, and folky passages on here. And I put this on my list to listen to after I heard two songs ahead of the album release, Fallow Garden and In Fringes. They really got me excited to check out the album, and the whole album continued the excellence displayed on those songs. This is a must-hear for fans of Opeth. And speaking of Opeth, there's some great news in the Opeth world. They have a new single out, really pumped about that, and a new album coming October 11th. So that album from Opeth is probably my most anticipated album of the year now. Maybe I'll make a separate video just talking about Opeth and how excited I am on that. Let me know if people are interested in seeing that down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this list. Have you checked out any of these albums? What do you think of them? If I've inspired you to check them out, let me know if you like them or if you hate them. And let me know what your favorite albums of July 2024 were down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you want to stay in the loop and follow all my music listening adventures. Every week I post my first impressions of new albums that came out in metal, rock, and prog that week. And every month I post my top 10 favorite. And here and there I make videos on other music related topics. So hit that subscribe button if you want to stay in the loop on what I'm talking about. And stay tuned for next time. Peace out.